Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we are going to start framework motion, and it's going to be a complete series where we'll be animating a lot of stuff starting from the buttons. So this will be more of an introductory video in which we'll learn what exactly framer is or what is framer motion and how you can create high quality 60 fps animations for your React applications. Although it is available for JavaScript only applications, but our main focus will be applications made with React, right? So let's get started. And if you find this video helpful, do subscribe to the channel and do share it with your friends who share similar interests. So quickly open your code sandbox or your VS Code or any IDE of your choice, and we'll start building something. Firstly, we'll start with what framer is, what framer motion is, very basic props, and we will instantly animate a button in less than 5 minutes. Right. So let's get started.
So let's get started. So the very basic thing that you need before you start Framer is definitely a code editor, right? It can be VS Code, right? For me, it's code sandbox, and you can maybe use any React playground or anything of that sort, right? So that is one of the most important thing that is required to learn Framer, right? So if you are someone who is already using React 19, there are actually two ways how you can install Framer in your application right now. So first is you do npm I and npm install Framer motion. This is directly used if you are right now into React 18, and for people who are uh, in React 19, they can do npm I simple motion, because now Framer motion, the good old library that you always knew, has now been changed to just motion, right? But since in our case we are using, if you see, React 18 in code sandbox, so we'll be using this particular thing. And for my case, uh, I just have to copy Framer motion. I have to paste it into dependencies, and it will automatically place a search. And I'll just click on this, and Framer will be imported in our dependencies. If you see, just like this, right? So now let's learn what are the most basic things and how to get started with Framer, right? It's not a rocket science, but it's very a little not complicated, but yeah. So let's begin with this approach. So in HTML or in CSS or in React, you have a DOM element called div, right? And then you put spans inside, and then probably you will put a main, right? Or maybe if not main, then maybe you will put a section. So all kind of these things are here, right? Then these have different purposes. Similarly, Framer has a DOM element called motion, that is called motion. And motion is actually a DOM element, but with extreme level of animating capabilities. So first of all, we'll have to import motion from Framer, right? We'll write motion from and Framer motion, right? And now motion always has something. If you see an article, an aside, or maybe a body tag, a breakpoint, and a button, canvas, caption. You see, all of these are HTML DOM elements, but they are coming in motion as well. Motion is an object. It's a DOM element. DOM is ultimately an object, right? So it's an object, and in here you can either put a span, you can put a div, you can put a p tag, you can put anything, whatever. Everything remains the same. Only a prefix motion dot is added because it's a DOM element. So for our case, we're having a button, right? Since because I said we'll be animating a button. So right. So the closing tag will also be similar. And now if I put a tag over here, click, and you can see, sorry, I just need to save it, and you can see a click is here, or just another very simple browser click, right? So let me just open the dev tools also. So I'll show you that this is actually how a normal button looks like, but why it is different, that I'll also show. This all also has an on click, on which if I click, I'll just write motion div clicked. So in here, if I click, you can see motion div clicked gets triggered. That means it is the same button DOM element, but with some capabilities, right? So now what we learn is we'll learn about the initial prop, and we'll learn about the animate, right? So these DOM elements take props, right? So if I write initial, it always takes an object. If I write animate, again it always takes an object. Initial will tell you the initial state or initial position of your DOM element. For our case, let's say it is button, right? So now again, same CSS properties, whatever you want to animate, right? So let's say I want to animate the scale. Initially, I want the button as 0.9 of the original value, and when it's animated, I want to scale it to 1.5, right? So if I save it and if I refresh, just look at this one. You saw something happened, right? This is what the animate prop is doing. Again, we can change it to 1.5 for initial and just 0.5 for the scale part. So if I refresh it again, you will see initially it was, yeah, so maybe it's not visible. So the same, exactly how the CSS animation used to work, like these also work in a very similar way. So animation always has a transition, right? So this also contains a transition prop. So in transition prop, we'll give a duration of this animation. Let's give it as 5 seconds. Now you'll be easily, I think this will be visible, or maybe I'll increase it to 2 this time, and I'll increase this from scale will convert from 1 to 2. So if you see, the button gets bigger and bigger and bigger in a very smooth way, right? So this is what the initial, and in initial prop you can give the X direction, maybe it's 100 pixels, and on animate X becomes minus 100 pixels. Okay. Yeah, you see, I hope you are able to see and able to comprehend what is happening. So this is the x-axis, and this is the top to bottom is y-axis, left to right is the x-axis, right? So on initially, the scale is 1. That means the button will exactly look like how an original button looks like in 1 ratio. And the x will be 100 pixels on the right, right? And similarly for when it's animated, that means this is what we want to animate. It's okay if you don't want to put initial also. It takes everything as default value. Default value is 0, scales default value is 1, so it will automatically take it as 1. But you might have a requirement where you specifically want the scale to start from 1.4, and the x value you want it as 100. It is fairly possible, right? So that's what this particular thing do. Whatever you put in animate will be considered as part of the animation, right? And this does not stop just here. It actually has a lot more props. So uh, there can be a specific requirement that, for example, on hover, right? If I write hover, you can see it says while hover on hover end. So while hover, again, it's very English uh, prop. So that means while hover, that means when it's hovering, it again takes an object. Again, while tap, that means when it's tapped or clicked. Click is a button click, tap can be a gesture as well. So while hover, I want it to rotate. And how much I want it to rotate? I want to rotate it by 90. Okay. Let's say 90. And while I tap it, I want to rotate it by 180. And what is 180 here? 180 is degrees. Right. So I'll save it. Now, if I hover on it, do you see what is happening? Automatically, because the duration of the animation is set to 5 seconds. It is happening. So let me just put it as 1 second, and I refresh. In 1 second, it will come from left to right, and as I hover, you see it changes. I take it back, it goes back again. This, and now what I'll do is I'll click. Once I click, or it's tap, more of a tap, right? Once I'm tapping it, that means a long press is happening. It is automatically taking it back to 180-degree of the initial position. If I remove it, you see it is going back. So let's disable the hover prop, and I'll just tap. Now it's doing a 180-degree turn because the value is set to 180, and as soon as I remove, it automatically takes it back to the original position. I hope the very basic part, that is initial and animate, is true. What initial prop do and what animate do, whatever values the CSS can accept, everything can be put. So let me put a background color of initial background color will be red. Let me put the initial white color as red. And if I save it and I refresh, you'll see this is red. Also, let me put border as none, right? So it looks better. And border, yeah, border. I just want to make it look better. What border radius? We'll give it as uh 1 rem. I think 1 rem is more than enough, but it's too large. So let me put it 0.5. Right. So I think 0.5 will look much better. Now on hover, again on hover, I don't want to rotate it, but I want to change the background color to blue. Okay. So I'll just do it like this. I'll save it. And you see what has happened. As soon as I hover, the color changes to blue. As I hover, the color changes to blue. Let's change the duration of the animation to 5 seconds again, and let's see what happens. Okay, this is happening instantly. I think while hover, I'll have to check. I'll come back on this if while hover also accepts a transition value, right? So this is mostly from this video, that is what is animate prop, what is initial prop, what are these two gestures, what is while hover and while tap. Again, any CSS property that exists can be put into this one. That is something that you should always remember, right? So that's it for this video. This was very basic video. Although we have not done a crazy animation, but yeah, from further videos we'll be doing good animations. But this was more of a starting point where you can start Framer, and I'll be covering each and every component that exists on the Framer documentation. So do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.